you doing?
I can't complain. I don't want to assume, but I'm going to guess that you're in LA.
I am, but I live in the San Gabriel Valley, which is like 30 miles from the city.
Okay.
35 miles.
Gotcha.
I'm more like in the foothills.
And the school itself, is that in the valley or is that in the city?
Where I coach?
Yeah.
The school I coach at is like 4 blocks away.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I don't teach there. I teach at another school.
Oh, so you're all over.
And since you got your Spurs shirt on, I had to get my Lakers ring on.
Yeah, bro.
Look at that. It wasn't for purpose, though. It's just, I'm from San Antonio. I wear my Spurs stuff all the time almost. But,
I need to send your shirt priority, bro. I'll send you the little.
Shoot the rock.
Yeah, I'm about to send it to you ASAP. I don't know about that. Everybody, all your followers will be like, all these guys, these Cali boys talking this nonsense about Texas hoop.
Well, I think the one thing they remember the most is you talking nonsense about Whataburger.
That's funny.
That's funny. I think it's pretty cool. We get to have a conversation with guys out in California. Kids are kids, right? So.
Sure.
But perspective is everything. So I'm interested to hear, your California perspective and how things are up there. So, now I don't have any cool intros or no AKAs like my boy. But we do got Robert Zaragoza and Al Cuevas out of California. Can you guys both tell me, exactly what city you're living in right now?
Go ahead, Z.
I live in the city of Alhambra, which is east of downtown LA, about 10 minutes. I grew up in Southeast Los Angeles, City of Commerce. Went to JUCO basketball in East LA College, stuff like that. But born and raised Southern California, East Los Angeles, Southeast Los Angeles.
I'm a little further out in the suburbs. I'm about 30 miles, maybe a little bit more, out of downtown LA, Charter Oak, California. It's a little community in the foothills out here. Gotcha. Probably about 4 or 5 degrees hotter than where Z is right now.
See, like over here, when something's like 5 or 10 minutes out, we just call it San Antonio. It's all San Antonio.
Oh yeah, that place is too big.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. How you guys been doing as far as this COVID situation? What have you been doing to stay busy? What's it like in California? I can tell you a little bit what it's like in Texas after, but just talk to me a little bit about what you've seen and how you got to manage it.
Well, when I can go, when it first started, it was one of those, you kind of saw it coming, and then everything started shutting down after the Rudy Gobert microphone thing, and then it was just kind of, we had a couple friends that were in high school playoff games, and that affected some of those things. And as far as like how it is right now, in the news in different spots, it's opening up little by little. Like actually today they said like the barbershops can open up in certain cities, stuff like that. So I think we're a little bit slower than a lot of other places as far as opening up. Like Memorial Weekend was, just the other day, yesterday, and it kind of feels weird to not play in a basketball tournament or be in a tournament or be in a basketball gym. We've been kind of shut down for like 2 months. So it's figuring out what are some of the things that we can do as like family. I'm lucky to have a park across the street. So I wake up early and get my little, I say I'm jogging, but in my mind, I'm probably really walking and stuff. So, but I try to get out there a little bit just to release some stress, because our place isn't too big. We have an apartment here, but it's not too big where everyone has space. So I think just kind of respecting everyone's space when you go outside. Like today, I was driving around one of the market and I was like, I forgot my mask, and then you make the U-turn and like you got to have those things, it's just you want to be respectful, to the people that are have fallen to this COVID. And, as far as anything, you want to be respectful to your neighbors and, we're all in the same community. So it's just one of those things where you kind of got to wait and see. and right now we're waiting and seeing, and you know, we see a couple of things opening up. But personally, me and my family, we're not in a rush to get anything going. You know, I think we'd rather see what happens and see how things transpire. I'm in education, so I do the long distance learning with the students, you know, making phone calls. I work as a dean at a high school. So for me, it's just, you know, I'm very fortunate to be in education and still be getting a paycheck. So as far as that's concerned, I think it's just one of those things where, you know, you got to just, we're not in a rush right now. You know, we're waiting and seeing. We miss basketball. Any little thing in the NBA Twitter world, we're like, all right, you know, we're waiting for it.
Especially early on, man. I think over the last 2.5 months or so, we've all kind of learned a little bit more about this whole, you know, pandemic and how to function. But the first 3-4 weeks, I mean, we didn't leave the house, man. We were on lockdown. You know, I didn't even go to the market. Yeah. You know, I remember the first day I went to the market. I even posted a picture on Instagram. You know, I was like suited up. I was ready because we didn't know. I think we've learned a lot more as the time has gone by. I mean, you just got to be careful, man. You know, my mom's 75 and she lives with me. And she had a quadruple bypass 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I got to be careful. You know, I can't be bringing any germs into the house and stuff like that. So we're staying home as much as possible, man.
And what have you seen as far as people in the city? I know, like in Texas, at least in our area, like people aren't really listening or haven't really listened much. You look at our beaches. I was just appalled at looking at all the people just huddled up around each other, hanging out like nobody's business. You know, how's it out there in California?
I think depending on the community, it's a little bit different. Out here where I live, I think it's a little bit more of a it's diverse, but there's quite a kind of a conservative set mm-hmm. that thinks you're a liberal softy. I'm using a nice word. You know, if you wear a mask, and my kids want to go. You know, my kids want to go anywhere, yeah. Right? And they want to go to the market with me, and I'm like, I can't. If I take you, you know, you're around grandma. But as you move more to Alhambra, to the east side, I know you don't know the communities, but these are more communities of color. They're wearing masks everywhere.
Yeah,
they're wearing masks everywhere. Over here, it's a little different at times, which makes me nervous. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I try to be respectful, and like I said, I just made that U-turn the other day, and I was like, because you know, you never know, and it's affected my family directly. You know, one of my uncles fell to the coronavirus. You know, and we're collecting funds right now, and you know, they're planning to take his body to Mexico. You know, that's where he's from. So, you know, when it hits home, I think it's one of those things where it becomes a lot more real. You know, I think, you know, it's very superficial, and it's just one of those things that you see on the news, and it's like until it hits you. And we're already being cautious about it, but it's just one of those things where, you know, you just gotta. Now it just becomes. That's why more than anything, it is more of a wait and see on what happens.
It makes it more real. I mean, we see this stuff on the news and the TV. And I think a lot of people, when it hits home, I mean, that's when it makes it really, I guess,
for sure.
Open your eyes.
Yeah.
Not that you didn't already have it, but I'm just talking about people in general.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. I know we touched on it just a little bit, but your childhood. You know, where'd you grow up? What was it like? Any influences in your life that led you down this path of getting into education or getting into coaching or just hoops in general?
Go ahead, Al. Your childhood started a little bit before mine, bro.
We actually grew up. He grew up in the city of Commerce. I grew up in the city of Bell Gardens, which they're neighboring little towns in Southeast LA. I'm 7 years older than him, than Robert. his older brother, and I were high school teammates. And that's when me and Robert, maybe we could talk about that a little bit, or maybe that's for your podcast, Z. But yeah, I started kind of hanging out with him a lot when he was about 10 years old, and I was a junior and senior in high school. And we joke around a lot. But yeah, we grew up in Southeast LA, went to Bell Gardens High School. Pretty competitive. I think Z had some better years there than we did. We were good, but Z's teams were a little bit better. But I mean, we just fell in love with the game there. It was a mostly Latino community that you pretty much, in the 80s and 90s, you pretty much played basketball, or you played soccer. Like everybody you knew who was an athlete played basketball or soccer. And then the guys who weren't that athletic ended up playing football, and they ended up being pretty good too, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, I was a pretty good student. And I was able to play some Division III basketball at a small college out in the desert for a couple of years. And then I think maybe I got ahead of myself and thought I was a little better than I really was. And I transferred to a D1 school, Long Beach State, and tried to walk on my last 3 years, and didn't really work out for me. But it was fun. I worked out with the guys there at Long Beach State, and I got better. Funny story. My last year, I knew the coaches, I knew all the players on the team, and the head coach at the time was Seth Greenberg. My last year at Long Beach State, and I went to talk to him about walking on again. I walked on every year, I try to make the team, and he asked me if I ever thought about coaching, and I said, no, I don't want to coach. Hell no, I'm not a coach. I want to play. He's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, well, why do you ask? He's like, well, a friend of mine, he's a freshman coach at Buena Park High School, which is Orange County, which is about, from Long Beach State, maybe like a 15, 20-minute drive. And he's like, yeah, freshman team, $1,500. I said, $1,500?
Rich.
I'm like, rich. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And I said, but what about walking on, coach? I want to be on the team. He says, nah, you're not going to be on the team. And I'm like, I guess I'll coach the freshmen.
Yeah.
And that's actually how I started coaching 30 years ago.
Orange County, like from the movie Orange County?
What movie?
It's a
probably. Probably the Orange County. Yeah.
Right on the edge.
Yeah, right on the edge. It was like it's Buena Park is like the hood part of Orange County. It's not really hood, but yeah.
It's Orange County.
That's where I first started coaching.
What about you, Rob?
I was City of Commerce. I live like 3 blocks from the park, the Rosewood Park. That's where I grew up at. And I was like the Parks and Rec kid. I played all the sports. Whatever the park offered, I was with it. Baseball season, flag football, and basketball. And basketball was like one of the first ones where I played, but I didn't really get the game, but Al and my brother and those guys, the more they started playing, the more I was like, I got to pick up on it, and they were older. So I wasn't really like the guy that was, with your younger brothers is like, move to the side, so I kind of it was one of my things where I was like, I wanted to hoop. And I played there. It's funny. I was thinking about it. I didn't play for my middle school because I was like, I want to play at the park better, So I was one of those kids. I felt that was my better path. I played in high school. We had a good, like Al said, we had a good senior year. We went 21-7. And for us in that community, one playoff win might as well win the CIF championship, bro. So we did well. And I played after that. I played junior college basketball at East LA College. I played 2 years. And then I played 1 year at California Baptist University. It's currently a D1. It wasn't a D1 when I was there. It was a small building.
Oh, you don't have to say that part, Z.
Yeah.
You don't have to say, I played at Cal Baptist. D1, baby.
Yeah, it was Cal Baptist College when I was there. Now it's Cal Baptist University. They're in the WAC, but it's cool. It's just funny to see, how I came up in basketball, and it's just like thinking about that I was gonna be on this podcast. I was like, man, I was at the park and I thought that was it. Like that for me, playing at the park with my friends was like the funnest, because you play against rival parks and, you make the all-star team and like, that's like, you combine, it's like, it just felt like my little NBA at the time, I mean, when you're a little kid, that's like what you have and you look forward to it and you go to the park and it's funny, one of my best friends lived down the street and, like literally up the block and both of us ended up being 6'6", and I was like, what was in the water on that block, both Latino kids. He also went on to play basketball in college beyond high school, but as far as that, it was just loving the game. I mean, just going and hooping and the driveway. Whoever had a driveway in their house, we were there for sure.
What's funny is thinking of all these stories. You ask about coaching. Z starts playing in the park leagues, and he's like 10, 11, and he's 5-6 inches taller than every kid, right? So me and his brother and some of us, we're going to his games. We're I don't know if you remember that, Z. Yeah. We're trying to coach him up. We're trying because we're in high school now, juniors, seniors. We think we know a little bit, and he's 10, 11, 12, and we're trying to coach him. And then fast forward a few years. He was on a really good team his senior year, and Bobby will say this because I'm quoting him. Of the 5 starters, he was probably the 5th option, right? And he was, I think, the only guy that played college basketball, right?
Eddie Santana played.
Oh, that's right. But he was a little heavier at the end of the senior year, and I was already coaching like maybe 2 or 3 years at that point. Remember, I'm 7 years older than him, so I'm like 24. He's 17. So I was training him. You were like the first kid I ever trained, right?
Yeah.
We're in the gym. I'm putting him through workouts. I'm getting him ready to play. And his body completely transformed from high school to college, right?
Yeah. That was, I remember during those times you were doing the warrior drills. I think.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Mullen. So Chris Mullen, he was he had OCD, like he's very obsessive compulsive.
What it was is,
and he was an alcoholic,
right,
at the time, and he was trying to get in shape.
Yeah.
So whoever's trainer Chris Mullins was, I don't know if you remember, Al, but I remember because it was like the warrior drills, and that's what we called them. Like, we're gonna get in the gym and we're gonna do the warrior drills, and it was like,
I'll send you that stuff, Marcus. You'll love it.
Yeah. It was cardio, shooting, and like
it's ridiculous.
And we worked out in the small hot gym. We had like the big nice gym, and then we had like the Indiana Hoosier small gym, with no AC and no fans. Mm-hmm. And we would go in there, and this guy would put me to work. After my high school career, I think that's when I didn't think I was gonna play beyond high school. And then after my high school career, I was like, you know what, Al, I need to work out. And he would come by the house and pick me up, and we'd go to he was coaching at the high school at that time, so he had the keys to the
girls,
gym. Yeah, he was coaching the girls, so he had a key to the gym, and he'd put me in there, and he'd put me through like a hour and a half workout, and I just, at that time, I could go that far, and then he'd be like, all right, and he'd be rebounding for me or whatever, and he'd be like, all right, cool, let's go one-on-one, and I'm like, what? And he's like, so he's all not fresh, but man, he put me through a killer workout, and I was just like,
and we go full court one-on-one.
Oh, yeah, great. That's
old school, bro. That was old school. I've known Al my entire life, and I think he's the one. Whenever I decided that I wanted to really get down and play college basketball, I asked Al, and he put me through the workouts, and those workouts are still good. I ended up coaching in Mexico, and a couple of the players would be like, hey, coach, I need to do a workout. I need to get back in shape. Like, I haven't played in a game, or, I'm like, you want to work? Or I do like preseason. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then they'd be like, like the first 5 or 6 shots, you're like, oh, that's cool. But it's like, you have to reach a certain number, and then you got to like reset it, and you got to, so you're constantly moving. So the players would be like, oh, bro, okay, you need to chill out.
No, it's funny you said the gym. A couple episodes ago, I had my assistant coach. He's from Indiana, right on the border. near
nice.
Illinois. So his dad coached 44 years at East Chicago High School, and so I paired him up with San Antonio's all-time leading wins leader, right, from here in town. So they don't know each other, but they're just talking hoops. And this guy's like, I remember one time I went up to Indiana, Knightsville, went to the Hoosiers gym, one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. And then my guy's dad was like, oh, I used to play there back in the day. I played there a couple of times, and my mind was just like blown.
Yeah. I actually watched that episode, and you put the little clip on the side.
Oh,
Yeah.
sick.
Like, and you inserted it, and I was like, that's exactly the small gym. Like that's what our small gym looked like. So it was cool. I saw that episode.
And I remember I was fired up to work, Bob, because I was like, I had coached 2 years freshman ball at Buena Park, and then I think I had coached maybe 2 years girls. So I was like, I'll work you, Ozzy. You're 6'6", big old dude. Yeah, let's go. Let's get in the gym. Yeah.
You know, you kind of started, but talk to me about your journey. You know, you started off as a freshman coach, and up until this point, you know, talk to me a little bit about that.
I was a freshman coach at Buena Park, and man, that might have been one of the greatest years in Buena Park history. We won the league, all 3 levels. The varsity squad was tough. I mean, it was so much fun. So you know, it's funny because I've listened to all of Z's podcasts, and I heard your podcast when you talked about Latino hoops, you know, playing in tournaments, stuff like that. Because I got into playing in tournaments a lot later, because right after I stopped playing, I was like all in with coaching. You know, I wanted to learn everything, and you know, I had friends going to tournaments, stuff like that. And I'm like, nah, I'm practicing, or I'm, you know, going to coach or whatever. But yeah, I was at Buena Park for a couple of years, and then Robert's brother got the head coaching job for the girls at Bell Gardens High School, which is our alma mater. And he asked me, he's like, hey, come down, you know, you want to be my assistant? And I'm like, what level? I'm like 22, something like that. And he's like, varsity. And I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So we coached together, I don't know, 10 years, something like that. And at the beginning, we were terrible. I mean, it was, you know, it was even our entire time there, girls basketball didn't have a lot of support, but we were all in, man. So we were there together for a few years, and towards the end, we had a really good run of some really tough teams that probably had a chance to win to win a CIF championship, a section title. If we would have got a couple of breaks, and then I left the girls program and became an assistant with the boys program for a few years. That's when Robert's brother Carlos retired from coaching. He became an administrator, a school administrator, which is what he's been doing ever since. And I came back to the girls and was the head coach for a year, and then went back to the boys in 2007 to be the head coach there. I was there until 2016, I think. And then now I'm here at Charter Oak, which is where I live. And it's been a great move. It's Bell Gardens, especially in the late 90s, maybe even later than that, 80s, 90s. I mean, we had some big kids that would come through, like Robert. You know, we always had, you know, some big men, 6'6", 6'7" guys who could play. By the time I took over, my first year, I had a 6'10" kid.
Oh.
After that, I never had anybody bigger than like 6'1". I mean, we were tiny little guards who could shoot it. It was fun, and we had some great little guards. But just small, you know, just small little guys. You had a coach on a few weeks ago that was talking about, you know, little guards that can handle and shoot the ball, and that's what we did, man. We shot the three, and we pressed the hell out of people, and it was fun. But now at Charter Oak, you know, I'm coaching a little bit more of a traditional kind of team. You know, I got some decent size and some better athletes, and so it's been fun. It's been fun. It's been a journey, man. It's been a journey. And I've been doing it for 30 years, and still have a good time.
Yeah.
And just to kind of chime in before, And Bell Gardens, I think in all the years that we were there, because I would help out a little bit, with the basketball camps or whatever. And there's not a lot of like a youth, like there's not like a lot of grassroots in the Latino community as far as youth basketball. There is, like I told you, the Parks and Rec, but it's just like the guys working at the park, and if they know hoop, then you're just kind of got fortunate to get some good basketball training.
You're out of luck, right?
Yeah. So as far as that's concerned, it's almost like in some cases, in certain years, it was every year's a rebuilding year. It's like whatever you have as your freshman, and it's just like it's important for those lower levels to kind of build and grow. And I was mentioning he did that girls season one year, right? And his transition, and he hits me up and he's like, "Hey, I need you to coach 1 year for me." And I'm like, "Well, what's up?" And he's like, "Yeah, I need you to be my assistant on the girls basketball team." I said, "No, I can't do it. Like I don't want to do it. It's too hard. It's a lot of work." And he's like, "Dude, we're just gonna coach it. It's basketball, and it's not girls basketball. It's basketball. We're coaching." And we had gone to. He had mentioned it earlier that we used to go to the Las Vegas Nike basketball clinics. I don't know if you've ever been, Marcus, but those are really good. Those
you need to go.
Those are amazing. Anyone that's a Nike coach was there. And they do it's like 3-4 days. It's what was it, Mother's Day weekend and the one in Vegas. But they used to have them all over the country. But we would go to the one in Vegas because we drive over and get a hotel, play a little gamble and then go take notes in the gym. And they would do it at the Orleans, and they would have a full court. They would have like college, like a college team like Concordia or whoever, like whoever the NAIA team was in California or whatever country, where part of the country they're from, and the coaches would put them through workouts. By like day 3, it's like one team, and by like day 3, like you got like Calipari, like, all right, we're gonna do our full court press, and he's making them go like, and we've been watching this kid like get dogged like for 3 days, and Calipari's like ripping out, like, what? Why are you tired for? Like, and he just like literally like flew in probably, So it was cool. Like we'd have Bobby Knight, I don't know the coaches, Bobby Knight, John Thompson, Tarkanian would be there. Anyone that was Nike was
Coach K, Calipari. We've seen everybody.
Yeah. So Al, back to what I was saying, Al hit me up and was like, "Look, 1 year," and I go, "Look, I'm gonna guarantee you 1 year," because we were kind of like banking on the fact that like he was gonna get the boys job, because the head coach was like,
"We were hoping."
Yeah, we were hoping, So I was like, all right, cool. So we coached the girls, and then the following year he ended up getting the gig, and then we coached together. We coached together at the boys program, and during that time, kind of going into my journey, during that time I was running a lot of men's tournaments. I was running a lot of Latino men's basketball tournaments, and a lot of the guys that were playing in my league were ex-JUCO guys from the Southeast Los Angeles, and it was high level basketball at the rec league, rec level. But I would host tournaments in Mexico, and I was doing other things. And at the time, Lorenzo Mata, he played 4 years at UCLA. He was from our area. I became real good friends with him, and he was signing his contract. And right at the end of his senior year, he was like, so I was with them, and I got to know the owner of the professional team. And he's like, "Hey, well, what do you do?" And I was like, "I coach. I coach at this high school. I work at a school, this and that." And he's like, "Oh, have you ever thought about coaching? Have you ever thought about like," and I was like, "Yeah." It's like, I enjoy it. Like I'm a PE major. Like I enjoy doing this. Oh, okay. So he just kind of dropped the seed, and probably like 7 months later, he gave me an opportunity to coach in Mexico. And I was over there, and I mentioned it in one of my podcasts, but it was one of those things where it was like right place, right time. And, at the time there was like the recession and stuff like that. So I had technically lost my job at teaching because they were doing a bunch of budget cuts in California. And it was just one of those things where the opportunity came up, and I ended up taking off to go coach in Mexico. No head coaching experience ever. I had played ball. It was one of those things where I was like, all right, cool. Like I'm fly the plane and build it at the same time. I think we've all been in those situations where you can do the job. It's just a matter of like, fake it till you make it, and you figure it out.
At that point, I hadn't done any social media. It was like 2006, 2008, something like that. And I remember talking to Bob, and he's like, "Get a Facebook, fool. We'll talk on Facebook." Do you remember that?
Yeah. That's before I left, like the week I was leaving, I was like, everyone needs to get on Facebook because I can't get a hold of anybody any other way. Like, and that's the way we communicated.
So
go ahead.
Not every night, but quite often we'd be on Facebook. Like it's dark already, it's late. My wife's like, "Let's go to bed. Let's go to bed." And this fool and I are chatting back and forth basketball. Like, "Hey, fool, we're playing this team. They do this, they do that." We're just talking hoops on Facebook.
And we were running, a lot of the stuff, like in the stuff that we ran in high school, because we were running and we were pushing the ball and we were, our system break. So we kept it really like flowy, and the players liked it. And then I got a couple coaches. I coached underneath the Argentinian coach, and another guy that was from Venezuela. And both of those guys, those are FIBA, and I learned a lot of basketball from those guys. They play a different system. They love practicing. Like the players over there weren't used to practicing the way the international guys were. So our practices were real meticulous. We would run over the offenses a lot, and I learned a lot of the stuff. And like Al said, we'd be like, "Hey, look, this is what we're running. I think the kids can run this in high school." So I don't know, I forgot what the program was at the time, but we would draw fast draw. We would draw our plays,
Playbooks full of stuff,
and we would share our playbooks. So then I'm like, so if I needed like an out of bounds play, we just had all our out of bound plays in one file. If we wanted to run some stuff for the bigs, we wanted to run a play for the three. So we were just kind of sharing back and forth. So that was like, for me, like, I've never done basketball in that way ever. Like when I came back home, I was like you realize that's why they're pros, and that's why they obviously, Marcus, like you're probably teaching a class thinking about your game at 7, or whatever time your game is. and over here, it's like, this is my job, and I'm doing this round the clock. So I'm breaking down video, I'm scouting, I'm doing all these other things. Talking to the head coach, having meetings, having pre-practice, what the practice plans are going to be. And, those are things that we did. Al ran a great program in high school. So I learned a lot of these things through him, but it just became like tenfold, it just became like way more intense. And my first stint in Mexico was in the Ciba Copa, which is a small regional division, and we made it to the finals there. We made it to the championship there, and then the second season, I made it to the National League, which was like across the country. And I started off as the like the video guy, the video coordinator guy. I'd break down game tape, stuff like that, and like heading into like the quarterfinals, our head coach got canned like in the middle of the season. And, so the owner was upset at him, he wasn't feeling it, and the fans were upset at him, and the head coach got canned, and the first assistant became the second assistant, so on and so forth. I became I went from the video guy to being on the bench on a championship run, and we ended up winning the national championship in Mexico in 2010. So it was good. It was in Veracruz, University of Veracruz, Jalapa, in the LMBP. So that was like an amazing journey. And after that, wheels kind of fell off on a couple different negotiating contracts. And then after that, you just start chasing it, and you kind of get brought back to reality. But those first 2 seasons were, you're on cloud 9, thinking you're going to be in the championship every year.
What were some of the differences in like teaching those guys at the pro level and then teaching your high school kids?
You know what's funny is at first I was really intimidated. Like, like I told you, I knew basketball very superficially. I knew the game. I understood the game. And like Al said, our best player was a 6'3" post, or a 5'11" shooting guard. And now I'm in Mexico and everyone's 6'7" across the board. Our guards are 6'2", 6'3". We got like 3 7-footers, so I was like, I didn't, but then when you get immersed in it, it's basketball. At the end of the day, it's basketball. And when we were making those runs, I was working with the bigs and I was doing certain things with them. And, it's just the skill level, they just make everything. I had this one guy, his name is Victor Mariscal. He played on the national team for like a ton of years, and I was rebounding for him. And he played on the Mexico team that played against like Kobe in Vegas a couple of years ago when Mexico played Kobe. And, he had been in the national team. He was like the vet on our team. And then he was like, hey, do me a favor, come and rebound for me. I'm like, all right, cool. And, I've rebounded for high school kids forever, And he's like, all right, I'm about to make 50. I'm like, all right, cool. And then he starts making, 5 spots, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. He wants to make 50. And he starts shooting on the first spot and knocks him down. Boom. I'm like, all right, cool. Goes to the second spot, makes 2, misses that next one. And he goes back to square one. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, no, I want to make 50 in a row. And I'm like, 50 in a row? What? And I was thinking in my head, like, we're going to be here all day. I mean, I wasn't used to that level of play. He probably missed. I don't think he missed, but just to kind of be fair to him, he might have missed one. We came back, and then he went 50 across the board. And then another thing is, they're players. They're former high school, in their high school or their college. So I thought, like, motivating them would be different or difficult, because they're getting paid. Like, you kind of think about it like you're supposed to be motivated, but in reality, they have the same, different things. They're upset at the coaches or they're upset at their playing time or how they played or whatever. So I would do, when I would do scouting tapes, every once in a while I'd get bored and I'd make like a little mixtape, and I'd give a player like a mixtape of his like highlights, and I put like music in the background, and they'd be like, oh, this is sweet, and then they put it on their YouTube channel. And going into the finals, we were down 0-2 in the finals, and I was like, you know what? Let me see if this works. So we were down 0-2 in the semifinals, and at the time the coach got fired, and they were like, all right, you're traveling, and the players were like kind of making fun of me. They're like, oh man, you're a tourist now, because I have my little camera, I have my little camcorder, and I was recording everything. And they're like, oh, you're being a tourist, because and no one thought we were going to win. But me being new on the coaching staff, now that I'm on the bench, I was like, you know what? We have nothing to lose. So we went to dinner with Ray Castillo, one of your Texas guys, and I recorded myself, like almost did like a selfie, and I was like, oh, we're down 0-2, but we're still gonna win this, and I recorded myself doing that. Kind of kept that in the vault, and we made it down from 0-2 to a game 7. And before the game started, I kind of documented and I put it into like a little thing, and I played it to the players before our game, and I ended it with that. I ended it with like, oh, we're down 0-2, but we're still gonna win. And the guys were fired up. They're like, hey, you know what? You believed in us. You believed in us. And the thing is, it was the guys believed in themselves. They kind of were in that position where it's like, no one expects us to win. So it's 12 players, the coaching staff, and, the owners kind of gave up because they fired the coach. Yeah. So it was one of those things where I was just like, it was us against the world. And we ended up winning that series. And then the following series, we ended up winning 4-1 to win the championship. But the difference is there is no difference. It's just the guys they make more shots. They're bigger, they're stronger. But as far as basketball wise, if you're teaching basketball and basketball, you can teach any type of player, any type of level. And I think Al, you would do that too. Back in the day, I was thinking about your Snow Valley days when you were coaching, and you were talking about like him working guys out, and who was the guy, Brent Barry. You were working out with Brent Barry and Snow Valley, and he'd have NBA players, and I was not.
For sure. It all comes down to, whether you're coaching high school kids, college kids, or pros. I'm sure you've had kids in your program that just aren't coachable, and there's pros that aren't coachable either. But the ones that are coachable, they'll let you coach them. You just got to coach them like you coach anybody else. It's basketball. Yeah,
you got to coach them hard. Just got to coach them hard. They want to get pushed. They want to learn something new, and they want to be challenged. So you can rebound for them or whatever. But if you put them through a little workout, two ball dribbling and with a shot or whatever, and they'd be like, okay, this is different. And then you start challenging them and you start putting them.
I worked out Brent Barry before his rookie year, and I can't remember his name, but the coach who developed the Warrior drills for Chris Mullen asked me to work out Brent Barry. He's like, hey, you want to work out Brent? I'm like, yeah, sure. What do you want me to do? He's like, do the Warrior drills. All right. And, there's drills where you got to do a layup, you got to do a pull-up jump shot, you got to hit a three, whatever. And I'm like, all right, how much time you got? He's like, 45 minutes. Let's go. I'm like, all right, we'll start with a little warm-up, a layup drill where you got to make like 12 layups in a certain amount of time. And he's like, yeah, let's go. So I told him what to do, and he's dunking the hell out of everything. I watched him play in college a little bit, but I don't remember him being that kind of player. But he's just like everything, just hammering it. 12 straight dunks, right? And it's like full court sprints, and he's hammering. I'm like, holy crap, this guy's a stud. That was like my first real experience. That's probably why Robert brought it up, because that was really my first experience with an NBA level athlete. Yeah. And he's a good player, but that, his 6'7" and the athleticism, it's just like, it was next level, but he was a great guy. He's a great guy.
Just talk really briefly about maybe an impactful moment in your career where you realize, this coaching is great. Wins and losses are wonderful. But just when you realize that it goes much deeper than the game itself.
I remember that moment like it was yesterday, and it was quite a ways ago. I must have been about, 25, 26. I already been coaching about 5 years or so. And I was in Vegas at a coach's clinic. And I got an opportunity to sit with Coach K.
Nice.
And I'm fired up. I'm ready to all right, teach me your defense. What are you running off? I want to draw stuff up on a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Right. And I sit down with him, and before I get to ask him anything, he asks me. We shake hands, introduce each other, whatever. And he asked me. He's like, "Hey, Coach, how you doing? I'm good." He goes, "Do you love your players?" And it kind of shocked me, like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Do you love your players?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I do." And he's like, "Do they know that? How do they know that?" And it just kind of like hit me in the face, like, damn. Because especially early in my career, I was a tough guy. I was a guy. My heroes in coaching were guys like Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
And when Coach K said that to me, players kind of started going through my mind, like I knew I would push kids because I wanted the best out of them, but I didn't always see like how they were viewing it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like maybe they were thinking, Coach hates me.
Yeah.
So from that moment on, I remember thinking to myself, I got to make sure my kids know, how much I care about them, and it completely transformed who I was as a coach.
That's powerful.
Like a 5-minute conversation.
So, for me, I think I'm starting to realize something that was told to me probably when I was maybe like 20. I was at East LA College, and I wanted to go to the Tommy Nunez tournament, and I had class that Friday, and I was playing with East LA at the time, and I told Sal, "Hey man, I'm not gonna be able to go. I got class and I got practice." And our coach was like, "Nah, 5 games in a weekend, you're gonna hurt yourself, you know." And so I told him, "Hey bro, I'm not gonna be able to go." And he goes, "You know what? I got you a flight. You know, I'll get you a flight." And I was like, "Hey, I don't have no money." And he's like, "Look, just how much can you get?" I was like, "I can get $20, you know." And I was like, he's like, "All right, cool. You have money for food for like a weekend, you know, 4-day weekend. I got $20." And he flies me out. The guys pick me up at the airport. I felt like a rock star. And all weekend long, I was like, "Hey Sal, here's the $20." And he's like, "No, keep it." So we go eat. And he's like, "Hey, what do you want?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got $20." And you know, he's like, "No, keep it. Like, I got it." Like, you know, and it was one of those things where at the end of the weekend, I still had my $20.
Yeah.
And, you know, the guys took care of me. I flew back home over the weekend, and I was like, "Hey man, how am I gonna repay you? Like, thank you." And he's like, "Look, when you get older, do this for somebody else. Like, I want you to kind of help someone else that you feel that's gonna do something." And I've always held that story. And I tell Sal, Sal Deanda, and I tell him that every time I see him. I'm like, "Hey bro, thank you. You know, I appreciate that." And every so often, you know, you see a kid like on Arsenio. I think we flew him out one time, or even just like when I host tournaments, you know, I reach out to the kids and be like, "What do you guys need?" Like, you know, or like even by doing my podcast. Like my podcast is an extension of that $20 bill that I'm still repaying back, you know, of like the fact of like I'm sharing their stories. So then that way their stories can impact someone else, you know. And I think we've all gone through the struggles. We've all gone through learning moments of basketball. Basketball has taught us a lot, you know. And I think with us 3 here, like we've impacted a bunch of younger us's, you know, as far as like coaches. And I think you guys do that. I mean, I'm not in the coaching ranks anymore, but I still view that as like as basketball still for me an opportunity to give back. You
always say that. See, you always say he always says that he's not a coach, and everywhere I see him, like 5 guys come up to him and say, "Hey, what's up, coach?"
But I don't see it as like, you know, I guess maybe it's like I don't see it as like a full-time coach.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I do so many, you know, master of all, what is it?
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, master of none. That's me right now. And I think I'm still learning, you know, obviously. And I think the more I mature, the more I realize like it, you know, I think it's that opportunity to give back to somebody. And then, you know, I hear it like Al said at the end of every podcast, they're like, they thank me for bringing them on, so then that way they can share their story, because we don't have that. You know, it's all folklore. You know, like all the stories that you heard, you got to go to that person to hear that story. Now you can share it and send a person a link and be like, "Hey, this is a good story. This is this coach in LA, and you know, he did this and this and this." You know, so.
Well, I'll tell you what. For all the kids that you coach, you're gonna always be Coach Z, right? I mean, that's never gonna change.
For sure.
What I know we're kind of talking about it now, but name some other guys, some of the best players that you've ever coached yourself. At any level, could be the pros, Rob, or the high school level. Just name some guys that come to mind.
I mean, I pretty much the team that won the Pan Am Games, the gold medal in Mexico, that was pretty much my team in Veracruz. I was fortunate to have Orlando Mendez Valdez. He's from Texas. He was there my rookie year. Lorenzo Mata, he was at UCLA. He had 3 Final Fours in a row. He was teammates with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Love those years. And then, you know, I had probably like some of the Mexican like national players, like Victor Avila. I had a chance to coach him. He played with Eduardo Nájera, and coaching against one of the guys was Robert Tractor Trailer. He was like, I want to say he passed away in Puerto Rico like a year or two after I coached him. But I was in between jobs at the time, and I went back to Jalapa, and I was kind of volunteering my time in Jalapa, and they were in the FIBA tournament. And Robert Tractor Trailer was, big dude, a real cool guy, and he's working out, and we got practice, and they're running through sets, and they walk through or whatever, and he's got a toothpick in his mouth, and I was like, hey, Track, you got a toothpick. Oh, no, that's my style, and he just had a toothpick in his mouth, but and you look at him, and you're like, man, this guy's big, and he's strong, and he's kind of like finessing it, around the rim, and you're like, oh, okay, it's good, it's good comparable to the other guys. And then they played against Mexicali Solis, and they're hammering him, bro. They were just like not lit, and he got mad at the refs.
Yeah.
And for like 4 minutes, bro, that's when you understood why he played in the NBA, was a lottery pick, because this guy was just drop step dunking he was the Mexican version of Robert Trailer, but like Shaq. He was just like, and those rims over there, like, they're shaking, and we're already back on defense, and you're like hoping they stop shaking by the time we come back. And he had about 4 minutes of just that, where he just tore the rim down, and I was like, okay, like that's next level. So I was very fortunate to like coach a lot of them, Petty Mesa and Ray Castillo also was out there. There's quite a few, and it was fun. It was fun.
I should have gone first because he coached pros, man. I coached little Latino guards. I coached a bunch of little Latino guards, little tough guys, guys with chips on their shoulders that, they had a crossover and a 3-point shot, just little tough dudes. I got a couple of guards right now. It's funny because, I was at Bell Gardens for such a long time. But these two guys over here, two Asian guys, actually, really skilled guys. This guy over here is a 6'4" guard. Yeah. The guy above him is about 6 feet, 6'1". Andrew Bongo and Jay Gonzalez, just skilled, athletic, quick. Andrew's probably the most fundamentally sound kid I've ever coached. So I'm excited for him. He's really working on his body, but he can play, man. He can play. So he's really working on his body, trying to get himself, ready for the next level. But yeah, a lot of good guards. I've coached a lot of good guards. Z was one of the best players I've ever coached.
I was about to say, did you coach Richard Lopez too?
No, I helped him out a little bit. I can't take credit for coaching him, but I put him through some workouts here and there. Richard Lopez, I don't know if you know who that is. He played in Mexico for a long. He played at Cal Baptist as well. He
Not the Division I Cal Baptist though.
But he was an all-star in Mexico for a while. But Richard, he worked on his own game. He was a workhorse, man. He transformed his. He was a 5-man in high school, maybe 6'3", 6'4", something like that. And in college, he was a 2-guard. And he completely transformed his body and his game. And I can't take any credit for that. That kid was a workhorse.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it is too. Is sometimes the players develop after. A lot of the players from Bell Gardens developed after their high school days. Because you get not pigeonholed, but you get placed in a position, or your league's not as strong, and you get overlooked. Like Al said, you got players going to other gyms and they don't go to the Bell Garden gym. So East LA College was one of the places that really nurtured a lot of the Latino players in our area. And a lot of players grew there in that area. From Bell Gardens, Danny Rosales, he ended up being a NAIA, I want to say All-American. Richard Lopez, he was at Bell Gardens. He ended up flourishing after playing professionally in Mexico. Arsenio Ramirez, also another player that flourished. You know, Arsenio is a great story because he transferred to a 4-year. And he was one of your players, Al. So you can take credit for Arsenio. But yeah. Arsenio played for. He transferred, and after high school, he went to a 4-year university, and he still had the itch to play. And maybe you want to tell that story, Al.
5'7" guard.
Yeah.
5'7" guard who averaged about 28 a game his senior year for me, and great student, just a workhorse. His junior year, I wasn't the coach. Actually, I was an assistant for his senior year. Mm-hmm. But you know, the head coach, he let me run a lot of the stuff, and we ran a lot of my offensive stuff. But his junior year, he scored about 12 a game, and then his senior game, he was a workhorse. He did everything I asked him to do, and he more than doubled his scoring output. Great student. He was going to
Fullerton.
Cal State Fullerton, and he was playing on our men's league team, you know, and we had some characters. I'll just leave it at that. We had some characters on that team, and I remember sitting with him on the bench, and he's looking at me like, Coach, this is like his freshman year in college. He's like, Coach, I think I'm gonna play ball. I'm like, college ball? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, well, you need to stop hanging around with all these knuckleheads and get serious. And I think he had like a 4.0 at Cal State Fullerton. And and I told him, I go, if you're serious, you need to drop out like right now to stop your clock.
Yeah.
And he did. He dropped out and he went straight to junior college. He went to the junior college and talked to the coach. And the coach basically told him, I really don't have room for you. Mm-hmm. And Arsenio comes to me and says, what do I do? And I'm like, he doesn't know you. This kid's a workhorse, one of the greatest, best personality, highest character people you would ever want to be around. Yeah. And I just told Arsenio, look, he doesn't know you. Just keep showing up. Mm-hmm. Just keep showing up. So when the opportunity comes, you need to do something with that. And sure enough, you know, he's working out, and guys start kind of, you know, failing classes and getting academically in trouble. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, Arsenio, you're not going to redshirt. You know, we're going to need you to play. Yeah. You know, he gets an opportunity in the game, comes in off the bench and, you know, knocks down like 5 threes or something like that. And then the same thing happened to him. He transferred. He ended up being a really good player, junior college. I think it was second team All-State or All-League or something like that. He did really well. And then he wanted to play at San Francisco State. And I called the coach and kind of the same thing. Like, I don't really have any room for him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, look, just don't make him walk on. Because I had some experience with walking on and not making teams. So I was like, just don't make him walk on. I said, just give him a jersey. Let him practice. If he's not good enough, he's not good enough. But just give him a jersey and let him practice. He's like, all right, coach. So he shows up at San Francisco State in the fall, and the coach would rank guys after every week of practice in the weight room, on the track, what they did in the gym.
Yeah.
And every week, Arsenio's number one, right? Basketball season comes up, and the coach is like, look, you're going to get a uniform, but you're not going to play. I'm just letting you know, you earned a spot. You earned a spot on the team, but you're not going to play. And Arsenio's calling me like, Coach, what do I do? I'm like, do the same thing you always did. Yeah. Just wait for that chance. And sure enough, they're getting spanked in the game, and he's pissed off at everybody else. And he's like, Arsenio, get in the game. And he comes off the bench, and he knocked down a bunch of threes. And after that, they wouldn't get him off the court.
Yeah.
And I remember it was about 2 weeks later, you know, he's texting me and telling me, Coach, I'm playing, I'm doing this. He ended up starting. And we go up there for homecoming. And the Division II league in California, they travel like on Thursdays. And then they play, like each school has like a sister school. So you play one team Friday and you play another team Saturday. So I went up there for homecoming, and they had a game Friday night and Saturday night. And it's homecoming, the gym's packed, and this is my ex-player, and me and one of his teammates are there Little Muggsy, and we're, me and Muggsy go out to dinner, and we have a couple of beers, and we're cheering in the bleachers like little girls, man. Because Arsenio's like knocking down 3 after 3, and I remember these girls in the stands are coming up to us, and they're like, "You know him? You know him?" And I remember telling Arsenio about that. He's like, "Really? Nobody talks to me."
Yeah, that's a good dude, and he's one of the guys in our men's leagues. He scored 108 in a game. He was buckets. Yeah, I took him out with me. He had a short little stint in Mexico, maybe a couple games, handful of games, but over there it's a lot of politics. So it was tough for.
He's small. He's a small guard.
He just needed that time to figure it out, But over there, it's time is money over there. Yeah. They ain't got a lot of money, so they ain't got a lot of time on those.
It's a great story, though. I mean, it's one of those perfect examples of, just don't give them a reason to take you off the floor, right? Stay ready, and then when it's your chance, don't give them a reason not to take you out of the game, right? I mean, a lot of kids these days will complain or look for, they'll deflect the blame somewhere else, and that's a great story, though, about a kid that stayed ready and made the most out of an opportunity. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I did that. I was supposed to redshirt. I played 3 years college ball, and I was supposed to redshirt every single one of them, And the first my freshman year at East LA College, I'd be on the bench, and then the coach would be like, "Hey, you're not gonna play, but whatever." And like at the end of the game, they'd be like, "Hey, so and so's in foul trouble, and put in Zaragoza." And I'd be like, and I was like the guy that just like at the end of the bench, they called my name, and I was sprinting to the table. I was that dude. I was like, lacking skill but effort, I'm gonna give it to you. And I played like 4 or 5 minutes. Same thing. I was like, all right,
take away one of your banners, Z.
Yeah. And, same thing. It's who said it? I forgot. One of the guys on the podcast said like I just wanted to beat that guy on that spot. So the guy ahead of me was some guy named Dale Clark. I remember him. I was like, every practice I'm going heads up with you, and we're doing post work. I want to go heads up with you. And it was just like my focus was Dale Clark. And I wasn't playing. I was in the mindset of like, look, this is my year to just get better. One day he no-shows the practice, and they're just like, you know what, Zaragoza, you've been playing well. And, they inserted me into the starting lineup, like out of necessity. Like Al said, at East LA College, you got guys academically ineligible, like 3 weeks in, their financial aid don't go through, whatever the case may be. And we go from a roster of like 18 guys to like 7 by the end of the season, Yeah. And, it was one of those where they gave me the starting nod. And, I had 18 and 10 on that start, and it was like, all right, cool. And for the rest of my 2 years at East LA, I mean, I didn't average 18 and 10. I had a great game that day, but it kept me. I did well enough to start. And we're playing against LA City, and they got LA City at the time had one of the top teams in the country. They had all their players went D1. Like there was a year where the starting 5, the 6th man, and a red shirt all went D1.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't go like they went to like all the Pac-10 schools. Someone went to Providence, and they're going all over the country, Texas Tech and stuff like that. So we played against some really good competition in JUCO those years. But yeah, same thing. I just worked hard, and that's like that was my thing. I worked hard, and I just earned every minute I had on the floor.
Let's get into a little bit of the Latino tournaments out there on the West Coast. Now, what is it like out there? What are the Latino tournaments like out there? What's the scene look like? Paint a picture for me.
Well, I've played in them since 17 years old, senior in high school, a couple times with Al, a couple times. But as far as like the Latino scene, I talked to a couple guys from Arizona, and they're like, hey, it's different in Cali. And I'm like, well, why is it different? He goes, because you guys have more of a community. East LA is all Latino, and the surrounding areas, Bell Gardens, and all the areas in LA and the east side, southeast side, are predominantly Latino. So the thing is, it's you have more to choose from, and if you select teams in the Latino circuit, you're like, for example, Sin Miedo, it's all guys from Bell area, which is a small city next to Bell Gardens, and all those guys played together and they grew up together, and they would nurture each other through the circuit, and Joe Leon from Tierra del Sol says that in Arizona it's not like that. It's not as conducive as like a community as far as basketball community. It's not embraced as much as it is now. I guess it is now, but it's a lot more spread out in Arizona. So I think there's certain tournaments. There's some big tournaments that they consider out here the circuit. So the circuit is LA Memorial, which was supposed to be this past weekend, and that's in LA every year. And then there's the Las Vegas tournament, which is in August, and then there's the Tommy Nunez. So those three tournaments are what we consider the circuit, like the big three. And then there's a bunch of other tournaments that fall in between those months, because there's like little weekends. Like I hosted tournaments in Mexico, in Rosarito Beach, Mexico, and I always wedge those in between those. So a lot of my tournaments were open tournaments, but a lot of the Latino teams would use those as like stay in shape tournaments.
You're ready.
So ever since like 94, since I've been in, we've been hosting tournaments. John Guerrero, I think Tommy Nunez is hosting his 40th annual this year. John Guerrero is supposed to do 25th annual Las Vegas this year. So the Latino circuit has been around, and I know the guys from Texas and Zuniga and stuff like that. He has his Cinco de Mayo, and I know that one's. I want to say it's definitely more than 25, but it's not as many as 40. So it's right around those.
It might be like 32 years or something like that.
Yeah. So I'm aware of those guys, and I host like my podcast, and I had a website, and my thing has always been promoting Latino basketball. Obviously, I played. We got stories like the ones Al's talking about of players that maybe didn't make the eye test, but they're good players and they're capable of playing college basketball.
Sure.
So I think the Latino tournaments for me was just a place to showcase your skill. All those summers that I was working out with Al, maybe at the JUCO level I wasn't able to flourish, but all the things that I worked on with Al, I was able to like put them into play against good talent, in Delano, like in the middle of nowhere. And you'd go out there and you'd be like, okay, like I can play at this level.
And your leagues were huge, Z. I mean,
yeah.
Earlier we were talking about the gym, or having the keys to the gym, and I was thinking about it. I don't know if you have a lot of travel ball in your area. If your kids play a lot of travel ball, but in the southeast area, the Latino kids there, they're not playing no travel ball. But I was an assistant coach to his brother, and then I was an assistant boys coach, and but I had keys to the gym. So me and Z were organizing. We did camps, we did kids leagues, everything we did for the kids were always free, right? We had all these different things. It's funny because I forgot all about that stuff. We did that stuff for years, Z.
Yeah.
Kids clinics and camps, and then we would do. Well, Z would organize it all. But we had men's leagues, and he had like different divisions. And his leagues, we'd make a little money, and he'd donate money to the program. That would help. My thing was always like, hey, I coach in the hood, but I don't want my kids to feel like when we go. I wanted to play in big events.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my kids to feel like they were lacking.
Yeah, for sure.
But to run a program, to be competitive at that level, you need money. And these leagues. And these tournaments were huge on helping, support our program.
Yeah.
And these leagues that we were hosting in our gym were top notch. I mean, we had ballers in that gym all the time. I would send my players just to go watch games because there was ballers in that gym all the time. High level basketball, Tuesday, Thursday night. You know?
And the thing is, too, is you got me remembering. We would have games 6, 7, 8, and 9 o'clock, right? So, and the thing is, the 6 o'clock game, I had Al's team, his varsity team, play against the men's team.
Yeah.
So the thing is, sometimes the teams weren't full because the guys didn't get out of work or whatever, but they had 5 or 10, you know what I mean? But it was still good quality ball. I mean, not to undermine that the teams weren't good or whatever. But the thing is, the kids were like pressing, like they're doing like, in men's league you ain't pressing.
No.
So Al was running, and Al's style of basketball was attack, shoot the three, make a bucket, and we're doing full court press.
Yeah.
So the thing is, the men's leagues were like, okay, and the kids would lose practically every game, but the thing is, it was not because they weren't putting in the effort. Like the men's leagues had to figure out like how do we break a press?
It's been a few years since we've done this.
Yeah.
But not only that, I mean, the men were like, the boys were competing and they were playing hard, and we had some good players, but they were still kids.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to be the men's team to lose to the kids.
Yeah.
Right? We'd go like 2-8, but the 2 wins that we get, everybody would talk smack to that team that lost to us, right?
Those two probably weren't allowed back in the league.
Yeah. And it was just one of those things where like we always found different ways to push the high school kids.
Yeah.
As far as like what can we do? We'd have them run the snack bar, or we'd have them, whatever. And anytime that someone of any notoriety within the Latino community was in the gym, we'd make sure we'd walk over to the kids and be like, hey, that's Richard Lopez. He played 2 years junior college. He played at Cal Baptist, and he's currently playing pro. Yeah. Oh, that's Lorenzo Mata. He's at UCLA right now. And they'd be like, what? And they'd like go and sit next to him and be like, and they'd like, hey, coach, what time does Lorenzo's team play today? And they'd be there like for the 8, they play at 6 or whatever. And they he plays at 9. All right, I got to ask my mom, like, if I could stay in the gym, and they'd come and they'd sit in there and wait. And it was just one of those things where it's just like, we talk about it all the time.
We had some good times.
We talk about it all the time, like you want to see someone ahead of you, to like a role model, and having those dudes, they're great guys to top it off, the kids would play hard and they'd be like, hey, they'd give them dap and they'd be like, hey, good game, man. You hit that 3. Oh, you got me or whatever. And the kids would be pumped up because even during like the free throw line, the players would like give them tips like, hey, make sure you step in right here. Don't let me get the rebound for you.
Yeah,
the teams are coaching the high school kids in the game, as well as like beating them. But it was like that in-game experience where you could see like, oh, this little kid got potential. Let me give them some tips. Or they'd walk over, hey, coach, can I talk to your guys? And they'd bring we'd do a huddle after the game, and some of the guys would be like, hey, man, you guys are good. Like, stay at it and blah, blah, blah. And, make sure, whatever. Like, they'd give them tips. And that was always good, so.
Yeah, we don't I can't really host leagues or anything, but what I try to do in my gym where I work is just bring guys in, right? Just bring them in, have them work out, open gym. Or I'll host some open gym with a bunch of dudes around the area that can really go. Some NBA guys, some college guys, some overseas guys, some guys, Orlando come, hop on the shooting machine, and just expose the kids to that stuff. Just to get them around it, because they may not have that opportunity, otherwise. And so, I remember I introduced Orlando to one of he's going to be a senior. He was 6'5" when we left. They said he's grown. I hope so. But he's a wing guard. He could play. Him and you talk about a bunch of little 5'7" Hispanics. I mean, that's what most of our teams at my school are made up of. For the most part, got this little guard. Super quick, can shoot from anywhere. I mean, real mean and feisty. He just, he's tough. And they look at Orlando, and he's maybe 6 foot, maybe.
Yeah.
He's like, that's the guy? I was like, that's the guy. I mean, he played down in Mexico, went to Western Kentucky, had a heck of a career, on the national team, played against, Derrick Rose and Steph Curry and these guys in the World Games or whatever. And, but just for them to see that and be around it and to be exposed to it, I think it's important for them. And it just makes them feel good, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And Orlando it's got to be up there as far as like the best players that I've coached. Just his career-wise and just, that guy's got his head on a swivel. Like, he's constantly like looking. His eyes are like this all the time, and he makes the right play all the time. He's got it. Never stops his dribble. Always IQ, knows where the next play is. I really had a good fun time coaching him because he made it so easy, and he's such a great person to top it off.
Guy, real humble, real laid back.
Oh, humble guy, but he turns on a switch. Yeah. We played in a FIBA tournament, and he was all tournament coming off the bench. And it was one of those things where, he was a rookie and he had a bunch of vets ahead of him. But that tournament, he just kind of flipped the switch and, he's played in, like you said, all these different tournaments and stuff like that.
Hey, going back to the West Coast Latino tournaments, I'll tell you that I went to that Vegas tournament last summer. That was the only time I've been to the Vegas tournament. And it was fun. I mean, I had a blast. A lot of teams packed in that one hot gym. What's it called?
Jam on it.
Jam on it. Yeah, had a hard time finding the door when I first got there, but it was a good time playing. I played in the Open, and I also played in the 35 and up. So by the end of the weekend, it was like 10, 11 games in. I was just ready to hop on a plane back to Texas. I was tired, but it was good.
I played in the 35 and over when I was 45. I'm 50.
Yeah.
We did okay. I remember doing okay, but they had a 50 and over division as well.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing some buddies over there like playing in the championship game, and I'm like, "You guys are in the final?" I'm like, "I should be playing with you guys. I need to run with you guys." Because everybody over there looked old to me. I'm like, I need to go over there.
Yeah.
And those tournaments, it's one of those things where it's grown to that level. I think that year that you went, that tournament had 99 total teams, 98, 99 total teams. But before, in the 90s, it was you had the Latino Open, which was all the youngsters, 18 and over, and you had the 40 and over division, and that was it.
Yeah.
And you would lose a lot of players due to the fact of like they hit 35, they're not good enough, and they just wouldn't wait until getting to the 40.
Yeah.
So, only like the OG guys would stick around for the 40 and over, or guys would like take a couple of years off, play rec ball, and then they play in those tournaments. But now you have, as far as Latino only, you have the men's 35 and over, 45 and over, you have 50 and over, you have high school boys, high school girls, we have a women's division as well. A lot of those subdivisions are a lot smaller, maybe 4 to 6 teams, but I think it just brings more of a family atmosphere to the tournaments, because I know you talked about it before. You've been going to the Cinco de Mayo tournament for numerous years, and it's a family event. It's like that's the time during the year that you run into guys that you haven't seen in a while. Maybe you competed with them in high school, or they're in the other side of the town or the state, and it's just one of those things. And we've become that's what we've become. We've become a Latino community, and even when I go to Tommy Nunez, he knows about our guys because he follows like the websites that we used to have. He knows what's going on. He'll listen to the podcasts, and he won't say anything. He won't say anything.
He gave Arsenio a scholarship.
Yeah, he used to do the scholarships. So the thing is, it's the world's become smaller because of this, technology and everything like that. But it's always been a community, and like I'll see Tommy, and I haven't seen him in 5 years or whatever, and it's always like, oh, mijo, how you doing? Like da 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 da, and you'll run into guys at a gym, and you'll be walking through the gym, and you just hear like, hey, Z, and you're like, oh, and I haven't seen you. And you go up there. So it's like, my wife will come to the gym with me and she'll be like, next time I'm just going to stay there because you just know everybody, you know? It's just because you just walk in and everyone, and it's not that you know anybody, but you just been around for so long, for us, Al and myself, we played in all these tournaments, so, and all these men's tournaments, and you see them every year or they're in your bracket and, you're like, oh, or you see them at the hotel in the lobby having a couple beverages and you just have conversations. So,
but I want to add and kind of stress it's absolutely a community. It's I still like to go to these tournaments. I don't play anymore, but just to see old friends.
Yeah.
But I have to stress it's extremely competitive.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's ballers that I remember the last Open Championship we won together. I was like 36 maybe. I think Bobby was 29. And we took a tournament. I forgot which one, but I remember I was playing like 2-3 minutes a half.
Yeah.
And I remember the championship game. I'm fired up. Yeah, we won the championship. And I kind of was replaying at the end of the game how much I played. And I was like, damn, I hardly played at all this weekend. And I was thinking to myself, well, damn, I probably played the amount I should have played because I'm over the hill, bro. Like, I just didn't have it anymore at that because they're competitive, man.
It also goes
to
the level of competition that are at these tournaments. I mean, it's a lot more competitive than maybe people don't realize.
You can't show up to Vegas because with your Tuesday night rec league championship team and think you're gonna do something.
Oh no.
Like if you need to be like a baller. You need to be like working on your game, working on your body. Your team needs to have practices. You need to run stuff. Like if you think you got a guy who scores 25 every Tuesday night, you guys are gonna do good in Vegas or in the LA Memorial or in the Shoot the Rock tournament or in the Tommy. Forget about it. You're gonna go party. Go party.
I remember this. They were young at the time, but it was Intocables. They're like good in the. I don't know if you played them in Vegas.
We played them in Vegas in the first game.
Yeah. So they're solid, right? But 10 years ago they were playing in the Open at 25 years old. A lot of them are 35 now. But when they first started coming into my tournaments, Bosco walked in and was like, "Man," he went to Rosarito and he was like, "Man, we about to run this thing." And I'm like, "Bro, you about to go 0-3." And I go, "You're only going 0-3 because you only have 3 games." I go, "You go 0-5 if I give you 5 games." And he was mad because I know I've been around long enough and I know that they didn't have it. It was a lot of the local, homies or whatever. And sure enough, after the weekend, I was like, "Hey, bro, how'd you guys do?" He goes, "Bro, they're good." And eventually, they picked up pieces. They got together. They ended up being really good.
They got better.
They were like one of the top teams, for a little amount of time, and then they're really good in the 35 and over. But guys walk in the gym and think like, "Oh, I'd be killing at the Montebello Rec League and this and that or wherever," and you come over here and these guys have been together for years, So
that team chemistry and
they're good.
It's the same thing. I mean, I know a bunch of guys that are from the neighborhood. Yeah, they're pretty good at the park or whatever. And then I'll see them show up with a team, and I'm thinking, "Oh man, what are y'all doing?" And like,
you're in trouble.
We're about to go to work, and I'm like, "All right, well, good luck, dude." No, I'm a nice guy, so I'm not gonna bad. I'm like, "Hey, good luck, bro. Let me know if you need something." And they end up going like 0-3 or something, and they're like, "Whoa, what's going on?" But these teams that, especially the ones at the top, top levels in California, Arizona, Vegas, and Texas, right? I mean, those guys travel around and they work out together, and
it's across the country too. Now that I with the social media stuff, like there's stuff in Wichita, and all over Kansas, and I don't know where. Like, I'll get inboxes of different parts of the country where they're like, "We run Latino tournaments too," or it's like Latino Native or whatever. But Tierra del Sol, like there's certain teams that'll travel out to go to those, But as far as like Latino basketball, I'm from out here, and I've seen a lot of Latino basketball, and I've been to Texas as well, and it's like the top teams can compete across the board, you know, and it's just and it's just kind of like at a certain level, there's a drop off, you know, like the top, you know, like United and the Gamblers, like for your guys' area, you know, Puro Money and those guys and Richard's team, Quien Sigue, like those guys can compete in Vegas and stuff like that. But then you get some of the other teams and you're like, oh, well, you know, we just want to go, we want to compete. But yeah, have fun, you know, but like the true teams, you know, the cream rises to the top. And I think just the way it's structured in California, I think California ends up having, you know, their rosters are a little bit deeper as far as like the amount of teams because there's more teams. You know, I think in Arizona there's like 15 teams that'll travel to tournaments, and depending on what tournament. In California, you can have up to 25, 30 teams that go from Cali, you know, and the levels range, and I'm sure in Texas as well. You know, you guys are a bigger state, but you know, there's those certain guys that are like the mainstays, and then you always have those other teams that are just trying to come up. So it's good. I think the more we connect with you, the more we connect with the guys in the Shoot the Rock, and we had that Zoom call with you know, with the COVID and everything like that. Some of the West Coast Latino tournament directors got together, and they were kind of talking about like what are the next steps. And you know, I think that's good. I think if there's anything that's going to come out of this COVID is connections. You know, like you know, I would have never had this happen. I would have never connected with anyone from Texas like you to your coaching connection, and we never would have had these other connections. So I think out of anything, you know, like if you kind of look at the silver lining, you know, hopefully this brings other things, not just this. You know, maybe we can bring some stuff to Texas, or some of the Texas guys can come to California and stuff like that. And, you know, one of the other things that we talked about with Jason Ludwig was the Latino Basketball Coaches Association, or Association of Basketball Coaches, the LABC. That's another thing, like, that seems like it's going to be good. And you've already been a part of that. So I just think there's so much room for growth. And I think, you know, this is a good opportunity for us to kind of like reconnect and share what we know to the Latino basketball community.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking some time out to hang out and talk some hoop, talk some life, and sharing your passion for the game all the way out from California. I really do appreciate it.
Man, thank you.
I appreciate it too, man. It's fun.
I appreciate it though, guys. I really do.
Man, thank you.
All right, Marcus.
You have a good night. Hey, Coach, don't forget to send me that in the email that you got. Yeah, send me that Warrior stuff.
I will.
Look at this guy.
What's up, Z?
Oh, what up? You guys talking smack? This is the smack talk before we go live. It's like yeah, that guy's always late.
I'm gonna have to edit everything that this guy says before.
Right on time.
That's right.
How you doing, Z?
Man, right here, bro. So, but you?
Hey, hold on, I'll be right back. Hold on.
Yeah, I was over here like, okay, they're getting everything ready. I'm like, gotta keep it down a little bit. You know?
Since you got your Spurs shirt on, I had to get my Lakers ring on.
Yeah, bro.
Look at that.
I feel like it. Hopefully the guys stood around for the end part. Something like, I don't know about these guys, man. Click.
Yeah. I can edit it, bro. I got you.
Edit it out. Put the back part in the front, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, Marcus.
Yeah.
Ask Al how many 3-pointers he made in high school.
How many?
None.
Why?
No 3-point line.
Oh.
I always good for that one, man. I always
back in the day.
My freshman year, my head coach would yell at me in college. He would yell at me all the time because we'd sprint down on the break, and I'd hit the brakes at the 3-point line. He'd be like, you got to lay up. I'm like, Coach, I need this 3-point line, man. I haven't had a 3-point line my whole career. I'm a shooter. I was a shooter, and I didn't have a 3-point line.
Yeah. That's great. We can add this part to the end, and I got the blooper part.
my non 3-point shooting high school career.
Yeah.
You're over.
He's over.
You had more threes in high school than I did.
See, I was a stretch 4 before that was a thing, bro.
Yeah, stretch 4.
Yeah, stretch 4. They're like, get back inside, big man. I'm like, I'm 6'6", bro. I'm not really that big.
Yeah.